What are 3 stocks that I'm going to be watching in February? Stay tuned because I'm going to go over that in this video. Let's go. Welcome back guys to another video. My name is Nick, and on this channel we focus on positive investing. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to join the community, and let's get into the video. So before I get into it, I want to go over my picks from January. I know it's not the end of January yet, but I thought it's been a couple weeks and get an idea of how my picks have done. So if you recall, my 3 picks were Alibaba, Apple, and PayPal. So to date, Alibaba is up around 10%, Apple is up around 4%, and PayPal is up around 13%. Now personally, I'm still going to be holding on to all of these positions closer to their earnings, maybe even through their earnings, because I believe these companies will report strong numbers and there's still a lot more growth ahead of them. Now let's get into the 3 picks that we have for this month, and the first one that we're going to go over is Take-Two Interactive. So for those of you that don't know what Take-Two does or what Take-Two is, it's pretty much a gaming company that develops games. So big game titles like Grand Theft Auto or even the 2K series of games like 2K Basketball, for example, these are the developers for that. The biggest competitors in the market really are Electronic Arts, EA, Activision Blizzard, or even Tencent, who owns games like League of Legends. So they are scheduled to report their earnings on February 7th after hours, and analysts are expecting a consensus EPS this quarter of 84 cents versus an EPS the same quarter last year, which was 71 cents. Take-Two has beaten on their past 4 earnings reports, and I don't think they're going to have any trouble this earnings report either with beating the numbers that have been posted. You got to keep in mind that the holiday season is typically very good for these gaming companies because a lot of people buy these as presents for others, so that's probably what's going to propel this stock to beat numbers in this upcoming earnings. So if we jump over to the technicals of this company, you can see here that it's pretty much stuck in this range that I've been watching for a little while. And full disclosure, I already do have a position open in Take-Two, but I do want to add to it in this upcoming month. You can see here that it's been moving pretty much in this channel for the last few months. It broke down here sometime in November or so after the big sell-off, and it's been having a hard time breaking out of this channel. And I think as we get closer to earnings, we'll either break out of it or we'll be close to the upper end of it. And after they post strong numbers, we're just going to break through that. You can see here that it's above its 50-day moving average, it's above its 100-day moving average, and its 200-day moving average. So charts look healthy, it's stuck in a consolidation pattern for the most part, and I think that we're going to have some good movement in the stock in February. The second company that I want to go over is Autodesk. So if you're not familiar with Autodesk or what they do, they pretty much make a CAD tool, or a tool pretty much used by engineers or architects for things like developing and designing models. What I do like about this company is that they don't have any large competitors out in the market. Adobe could be considered a competitor, but Adobe is more focused on the graphic sides of things, so like focusing on graphic designers or artists. That's their primary focus. So I think Autodesk really has a nice niche that it's kind of cornered in the market here. So this stock is supposed to report earnings towards the end of February, scheduled for around February 27th, but this date is not confirmed as of recording this video. Analysts have a pretty high target set for the stock. Most come in at around at least $120, some go upwards of $140, $150. So there's still a lot of upside in my opinion for this stock. Their subscriptions revenue soared over 100% year over year, and this translates to about $231 million that they pulled in last quarter. Their total number of subscribers also increased by around 150,000 last quarter, and I expect around the same amount of growth for this quarter. And currently, as of right now, they have around 3.6 million subscribers, and we might be getting close to the 4 million subscribers, and I think if we do beat that somehow with this last quarter, that we're going to have some great movement in this stock. But I'm not going to hold my breath for that. I don't think that we're actually going to reach or beat 4 million this quarter, but I do believe that's a possibility in this calendar year 2018. So for this upcoming earnings, they expect around a $540-ish million in revenue. And they've also gone ahead and they've revised their full year revenue and EPS expectations and increased it to around 2.04 to 2.05 billion versus its previous guidance of around 2.03 to 2.04 billion. So now if we jump over to the technicals here, the first thing I need to point out really is that huge gap that's just staring us in the face. This stock took a huge downturn last earnings, but you can see here that it did fall at around a good support level that I have been watching. and that also coincides with the 200-day moving average of the stock. So it hadn't tested this level in a very long time. So since its last earnings, it's really been consolidating, moving sideways. We even dipped a bit below the 200-day, but then I think that's when the buyers realized that this was a value buy, started buying into the stock, and now we're pushing up higher as well. We have broken past the 50 and 100-day moving average as well for the stock, which is a very bullish sign for it, and I think that a lot of buyers are coming into the stock now. And I do believe we're going to have a good run up to earnings and most likely fill this gap before earnings comes around. So if you do plan to play this, do keep that in mind that it probably will go up to fill that gap. Nothing, of course, is a guarantee, but that's something that I'm personally watching in this stock. Now, my position in this is more of a technical play as opposed to a fundamental play, which is what most of my positions are. But I do believe that this company will post good numbers and they will have a good earnings, and that in turn will lead the stock to probably reach its new all-time highs, or at the very least fill that gap. The only warning that I really have for the stock after holding it for the last little while is that it does move a little slow and doesn't move as expected compared to other stocks. So you might be holding this for longer than expected, so keep that in mind if you do enter a position in this. Alright, so the third and final stock that we have here is Square. So for those of you not familiar, Square is a company that pretty much focuses on mobile payments. They're really popular with small businesses, especially here in Toronto. I've seen a lot of coffee shops or little boutiques and stuff like that that offer Square as a payment method. And all it does really is that the small business can take this little device, plug it into their phone or their iPad, and then customers can then use their credit cards to pay for purchases and items in the store. So this, of course, not only helps Square, but it also helps those credit card companies, because previously the customers would only have a choice of usually going with either debit or cash, but now this opens it up to more payment platforms like Visa, MasterCard, and even American Express. So Square is expected to report earnings again towards the end of February, not confirmed yet, but the date that I am seeing is around February 21st. But the one thing that caught my attention in the stock is that analysts haven't really had a lot of upgrades with it since its huge run up to $50 in the last couple of months. Ever since it hit that $50 mark and then sold off and had a huge dip, analysts haven't really come in and said, oh, Square is a buy, upgrading the stock and all that kind of stuff. So I think we're going to see a lot of upside in this stock, especially as we get closer to earnings. I do believe that if they do beat on earnings, which I don't think they'll have a problem doing, that we're going to see a huge flood of analysts come in, post new price targets on the stock, and of course that's going to propel the stock even higher. Now, full disclosure, I personally am holding leaps, which are long-term options on this company. They do expire sometime in January 2019, and I will be holding this position for quite a while, most likely through this earnings season, most likely through a few earnings seasons, unless something fundamentally changes on this company. Now, if we jump over to the technicals of Square, you can see here that, like I said, we did have a huge sell-off back in around November time frame, where the stock went from around $50 all the way to around $35 or so. I was tempted to buy in at this level, but I did wait for it to hit my entry level, which was the support level that I've been watching here. Once I noticed that it did break this level on strong volume, and then come back to test that and held that level, that was a good buy point for me, and I did make a position like I mentioned, and I have been holding it since. So as you can see, we have had a couple good days in the stock. There has been some good news flowing into the stock recently as well, such as American Express most likely being interested in purchasing Square, but again, that's just a rumor, but it did propel the stock and did fuel this rally that we're seeing right now. But here you can see we're well above the 100-day and 200-day moving averages, and we are above the 50-day moving average as well. So I think the technicals look pretty strong on the stock. Fundamentals are finally catching up. People are coming back into the stock, and people are realizing, okay, that sell-off that we had at $50 maybe was a bit of a push, and they are looking to get back into this, most likely to catch an earnings run up. Okay, so those are the three stocks that I'll be watching in February. Now keep in mind, like I mentioned, the stocks I did mention in January, I'm still holding. I do believe there's some upside for those still, and I do believe there's still a lot of upside for these three that I mentioned today. So let me know what stocks you're watching in February. Make sure to leave a comment down below. Today's question comes from a user, OneBaitCaster, and they're asking if I could make a video series on options. Now I do want to put this out to you guys and ask you guys, is this something that you want to see? Are you interested in me going over some option plays that I've done, going over some basics of options? I do have a video on options which I'll link up here, but if you want to see something more in depth, maybe about the Greeks of options, a sample play, some positions that I personally hold, let me know if that interests you, and make sure to comment down below if it does. So that pretty much sums up the video. Thank you for watching, and remember to invest positively. Peace.